A thought comes when it wants to, and not when I wish. So it's a falsification of the facts to say that the subject I is the condition of the predicate think. One must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. And those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music. He who despises himself nevertheless respects himself as the one doing the despising. All I need is a sheet of paper and something to write with, and then I can turn the world upside down. He who has a why can bear almost any how. The snake which cannot cast its skin has to die. As well the minds which are prevented from changing their opinions. They cease to be mind. The secret of realizing the greatest fruitfulness and the greatest enjoyment of existence is to live dangerously. Build your cities on the slopes of Mount Vesuvius. Send your ships out into uncharted seas. Live in conflict with your equals and with yourselves. To live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering. The strength of a person's spirit would then be measured by how much truth he could tolerate, or, more precisely, to what extent he needs to have it diluted, disguised, sweetened, muted, falsified. One must learn to love. This is what happens to us in music. First, one has to learn to hear a figure and melody at all, to detect and distinguish it, to isolate it, and delimit it as a separate life. Then it requires some exertion and goodwill to tolerate it in spite of its strangeness, to be patient with it, its appearance and expression, and kind-hearted about its oddity. Finally, there comes a moment when we are used to it, when we wait for it, when we sense that we should miss it if it were missing. And now it continues to compel and enchant us relentlessly until we have become its humble and enraptured lovers who desire nothing better from the world than it and only it. But that is what happens to us not only in music. That is how we have learned to love all things that we now love. In the end, we are always rewarded for our goodwill, our patience, fair-mindedness, and gentleness with what is strange. Gradually, it sheds its veil and turns out to be a new and indescribable beauty. That is, its thanks for our hospitality. Even those who love themselves will have learned it in this way, for there is no other way. Love, too, has to be learned. Beware that, when fighting monsters, you do not become a monster yourself in the process. Because when you gaze long into the abyss also gazes into you. Today, as always, men fall into two groups, slaves and free men. Whoever does not have 2/3 of his day for himself is a slave, whatever he may be, a statesman, businessman, an official, or a scholar. The great end of art is to strike the imagination with the power of a soul that refuses to admit defeat, even in the midst of a collapsing world.